In the meantime, Allan Pease has called in. Hello, Allan Pease.
Hey, Brent, how are you?
Good, mate. How are you?
Pretty good.
Now, we're talking today about the royal wedding. Did you watch the royal wedding?
Well, I watched the entire thing. I thought I'd watch 10 minutes, but I finished up going through the whole thing.
And why did you do that?
Well, it actually became interesting because when I realised it wasn't going to be like traditional British weddings that we've seen in the past, it was going to be more about Hollywood and about movie stars and Oprah and so on, it became very interesting. I wanted to watch the reactions, particularly of the English, towards the Americans.
It was interesting. Would you buy some shares in their relationship, as in Meghan and Harry's relationship lasting?
Well, that's always the test, isn't it? I mean, if you're going to buy shares in a relationship, what would you buy? I think in Charles and Diana, I never would have bought anything other than short term, maybe a couple of months.
Mm-hmm.
In these two, I'd go for medium term because see, in a new relationship, a new love relationship, it normally lasts for around 3 to 9 months. In that first 3 to 9 months, male hormones, the happy hormones such as oxytocin, rise dramatically. So men become all touchy and gooey and cuddly. And women think, oh, this is great, he's going to be like this forever, which it won't be. And her testosterone raises dramatically, so she's bonking the guy day and night. And he thinks, wow, this is going to be like this forever. And it won't be, because it only lasts for 3 to 9 months, that first love relationship, before hormones come back to their normal level. And you wake up in the morning and go, what the hell is this next to me in bed? And that's the real litmus test of the relationship. So these two have been going 18 months, and they still seem to be on the hormonal high, so that augurs for a fairly good longer-term relationship.
What about, I had someone call in this afternoon when they knew we were going to talk to you, and she wanted me to ask you about the interaction at the wedding between Camilla and Charles. She was questioning whether they were getting on. I sort of thought that they were having a bit of a giggle together, but what's your thoughts?
Well, they were having a few laughs together. I think the relationship has gone to one of that she tries to make a bit of an effort, but he's a bit dismissive of her. And occasionally she's dismissive of him, which is not uncommon for relationships that have been together a long time, because look, the reality is with those two, Charles and Camilla, they have, emotionally at least, been together since they were teenagers.
They have. And the funny part about it, as I said earlier this afternoon, they went through so much to be together, didn't they?
Well, that's the whole point. They went through all the stuff that they went through to get to the point where they are now. Now he's 70 and she's coming close. And that they actually behaved like a couple have been together for 50 years who just sort of had enough of each other.
What was your reaction to the sermon by the Bishop, Curry?
I thought that was hilarious. I mean, we've been watching the Archbishop and all the other British clergy who are about as much fun as a broken leg. And traditionally they say that. And this guy got up and started to do an Anthony Robbins seminar. I mean, it was absolutely... the question I was asking, as a lot of people, was, when is he going to stop?
Yeah.
He went for 14 minutes, and I think... it makes you wonder with these guys that somebody obviously would have read what he was going to say and timed it, and they wouldn't have let him go for 40 minutes, because look on the faces of the British royalty, particularly Queen Elizabeth and Phil, that was one of absolutely shock.
You think, I suppose shock is probably the right word. What about Harry and Meghan, though? I thought that their body language was they were having a bit of a giggle about it all.
Oh, they thought the whole thing was hilarious. They really thought it was funny, and they were having a good giggle about it, because that's the first 7 minutes of Curry's speech. He was fairly conservative. It was only that last 7 minutes where he wound up and started flinging lightning bolts at the audience and giving hell and brimstone that it really became interesting. And they were having a good laugh of it, no doubt about it. But Queen Elizabeth, it's interesting watching her, when Michael Curry was really throwing some lightning bolts into the audience, she gave 2 quick shrugs and then looked at Philip quickly. And that's a sign of, well, what the hell have we got here? When is he going to stop?
I never really saw do you ever see, I suppose you see her smile, but I never really saw the Queen smile that much during that ceremony.
No, she didn't smile that much at all, and it's part of British upbringing that they're taught not to smile. And I find exactly the same thing when I go to Russia. In Russia and ex-communist countries, you don't see any smiling either, because historically, smiling, including in the Roman Empire, which is British origin, smiling was shown that you're not serious about life, and to be taken as seriously in public, you don't show any emotions at all. Of course, the result of that is in a society where we're looking for relationships with people, we misjudge and think that these people are actually grumpy or unhappy.
What was your take on the Oprah Winfreys and the George Clooneys and that turning up at the wedding?
Yeah, well, the things you do for a bit of free cake, I suppose, and the rock. and Oprah got a good interview with Meghan Markle's mother. She lined that up on the spot, so that was very opportunistic. And I think having that variety of different characters, which has never been seen before, ever in British monarchy, was quite an incredible thing to watch.
Now, you look at things differently because you look at their body language. I was looking at Dora's, that's Meghan Markle's mother. I was looking at her, and she looked to be poised and graced. I mean, she looked very graceful, and she was there by herself, sitting by herself. She looked to be maybe a little out of her depth.
Yeah, I would have said a little on the terrified side as well, because she's never been in that situation. So overnight, she's sitting in there next to the Queen, and there's a daughter marrying one of the most popular royals maybe in history, and somebody dressed her really well. Because if you look at media shots of her in the past, she's a working class type of girl. She never dresses like that at all. So someone's dressed her, and they did it well. And they've told her to sit still, not make any gesture, because, see, if you've got somebody who comes from a working class background, for example, has working class gestures, and you're putting them in front of an upmarket people where you want to portray upmarketers, you tell them not to move their hands, because there's more hand gestures in working class than there is in upper class, and that portrays your general level in society.
What's your take? Why is Harry so popular? Why do people love Harry? Why does everyone seem to warm to Harry?
Well, he's very Australian in a lot of ways, and you look at the guy, because he just doesn't give a hoot what you think. If you don't like it, well, you've got to deal with it. Whereas other royals have always said, we've got to follow the rules and obey the rules the way they go, and he just won't do that. And I think the reason he's so popular with Australians especially is because that's generally what our culture is. You know, we're a pretty knockabout culture that rules are for fools, and wise people use guidelines as an Australian mantra, and that's why I think we love him so much here.
But don't you think we're changing, though, as Australians? I mean, I seem to talk to people that these days are concerned, youngsters particular, of what the other people think. So it's not that I don't care what you're thinking or what you're saying. These days, I think aren't the younger generation starting to really care about what people think?
Well, it's peer pressure more than anything. And one of the things we know from looking at how kids are raised, from age 12 onwards, parents have very little, in fact, they have the least amount of influence over their kids' attitudes and behaviour. And you know who's got the biggest influence over kids after 12?
Who?
Their peer group.
Yeah, right.
Their peer group decides what they'll think and where they go. And their peer group will control the emotions of kids to the point where you get cyberbullying, which is a way of taking advantage of the fact that kids are trying to make themselves a part of a group, and parents have lost the control.
There's a mag around today that says Meghan Markle, she walked up the steps, this is at the function yesterday, where they were honouring Prince Charles and starting the celebrations for his 70th birthday. She walked up the steps with her hand, this is Meghan Markle's hand, on Harry's back, giving him support. What does that tell you?
Yeah, when you want to support someone, putting your hand on their shoulder or the back is a pretty common one. I saw that, and I thought that was interesting because, look, you just don't see that in royal couples. You don't see the woman supporting the guy, because historically the guy is supposed to be wearing the army uniform. He's supposed to be the aggressive guy, the guy who's leading the pack. And in this case, you can see that she's supporting him when he needs it, because you look at them sitting at the wedding waiting to go. One of the things that Harry did, 6 times he bit his bottom lip. Did you see that?
I didn't know. You did.
He bit it and sucked it in, and that's a way of portraying the fact that you're really, really nervous and really out of your depth, and which you'd think for somebody who's royal wouldn't be the case. Whereas in the case of Meghan Markle, she was absolutely a Hollywood actress. She was playing the role of being married. She played it beautifully. She stood the right way, walked the right way, used the right eye contact, used everything, and that's the thing why I said I'd only buy medium-term shares in it, because clearly, by the way he behaves towards her, this guy is absolutely smitten to his back socks. There's no doubt about that. He just thinks he's won the lottery here. And at this point, she thinks the same way as well. Now, I think if you push it forward 20 years, he's probably going to feel the same way. Whether she does is a question. That's why medium shares I'd go for.
All right, Allan Pease. It's always good to talk to you, mate. We'll get back to our usual chit-chat next week and give away another one of your books. Thanks, mate.
Okay,
have a good
Brent.
week.
See ya.
See you, Allan. Bye-bye. Allan Pease, body language expert. There you go. That's his take on all the body language that happened at the royal wedding.